When Daniel Ricciardo had decided to move to Renault from Red Bull in 2019, his then team boss Christian Horner had remarked that he did not understand the move as it wasn't to another top team like Mercedes or Ferrari. Ricciardo will again be changing teams next year, and his decision to join McLaren is seen by some as a sideways move and just as illogical as his previous move. Ricciardo has now given his side of the story. I'm your host Dylan Shelley, and Ricciardo reveals why he chose to go to McLaren now. Ricciardo began by explaining how Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel's decision not to renew his contract with the Italian team accelerated the timeline. I think obviously Vettel's announcement or news with Ferrari kind of sparked everything, and then things were moving pretty quickly around Carlos and all the other stuff. Although it seemed like maybe there was still time to make a decision, I don't actually think there was. He further elaborated on how it would have taken a couple of races to figure out which team stood where, and given the delayed start to the 2020 season, it would have been too late for him. What I'm playing in my head, if you start racing in July, which wasn't 100%, you've then got a few races. You're probably going to wait till August, maybe even September, till you really know where everyone's at. And I think by then it was going to be too late to get something you were really after. He concluded by explaining his thought process and revealed that it wasn't an easy decision in the end. It was quite clear that McLaren was the team that made the biggest step out of all, so that was encouraging obviously for them, and obviously they're switching power units, so that's really all you can kind of base it off, and their pitch for the future. Talking about it is certainly tough, as it was by no means an easy decision, as you can imagine, and not having really much to gauge from 2020 was pretty difficult. Mercedes has no problem with Racing Point copying them. Racing Point had recently received a lot of flack for allegedly copying Mercedes' 2019 title-winning car. Renault's F1 managing director Cyril Abiteboul has spoken about this. He began by looking at the collaborations between some of the teams in F1 and how it will be affected by the new budget cap. We're going to get a reasonably low budget cap now, and that makes the field much more competitive. I am very curious what will happen with all the collaborations. He then spoke about Racing Point's approach to its 2020 car and Mercedes' reaction to it. At the moment, Mercedes has no problem with Racing Point copying their car. It doesn't matter if it's legal or not, they don't seem to have a problem giving Racing Point a hand. He then explained how the top teams will no longer be immune to competition from the smaller teams. Everyone is going to be a threat to everyone. In the current construction with collaborating customers and manufacturers, the three biggest teams will be protected, but in the future they will lack the protection against the smaller teams. And in the end, the fans will be the big winner. Fast feed. Red Bull's Alex Albon feels the fans can really connect with drivers in online racing and doesn't understand why it wouldn't stay that way in real life. F1 managing director Ross Brawn added to that by saying that this interaction is something the fans really wanted, to get to know the driver better. Normally you only see them in formal settings. He also feels they have one extra year of time, and that gives them the opportunity to evaluate and possibly adapt in areas indicated by the teams as far as the regulations are concerned. Meanwhile, Haas team boss Gunther Steiner thinks that F1 should not be afraid to try new things. If in the end it doesn't work, we know that for the future. He also confirmed that Haas won't be organising a private test to prepare for the resumption of racing in F1, as they simply don't have the capacity for that. McLaren's Lando Norris feels that future teammate Daniel Ricciardo has confirmed himself to be an extremely good driver against a lot of other good drivers, and that's why McLaren has so much confidence in him. He also feels that putting the body straight into a triple header physically is probably going to be a bigger challenge than actually getting up to speed with the car. Racing Point's technical director Andrew Green has revealed that they don't know what races will come after Spa and Monza. That's why it's difficult to plan what they need in terms of car development. Former F1 driver Mark Webber feels that Ferrari Sebastian Vettel is going to take a year off and that he can take it easy now. When Kimi Raikkonen had signed to Lotus in 2012, he reportedly earned €50,000 bonus per point he scored. Kimi Raikkonen would go on to score 390 points for Lotus in 2 years. With that bonus, Raikkonen earned €19.5 million, which reportedly almost led the team to bankruptcy. Williams' George Russell thinks that Mercedes has a junior program for a reason, and that the whole thing is to try to develop a driver and put him to work with the big team. Reigning world champion Lewis Hamilton has launched the Hamilton Commission to increase diversity in the sport and hopes to make real, tangible and measurable changes possible. Renault's Esteban Ocon has revealed that braking is incomparable. In the simulator, it is so much easier to brake than in an F1 car. Daniel Ricciardo thinks that as soon as the lights go out, some drivers' egos will get in the way. It will therefore be very exciting. And Willy Webber, the former manager of seven-time champion Michael Schumacher, feels that in hindsight, Schumacher's return to racing in 2010 was the stupidest thing he could do. Will George Russell ever get the call up and race for Mercedes? Head over to my community page to vote in the poll and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and check out my others for all the latest in the world of Formula 1.